political tract. I mean, this is like just a political tract about the dangers of nationalism, basically making a political argument in manga. So I start thinking about this. I say, well, this is kind of cool. What are they doing here? Then I start thinking about, then I start clicking the wrong way. Then I start thinking about other things, all right? I said, wow, that's kind of interesting. And so I start looking at manga elsewhere in the world, and I go to the what do you call it, UK. You know what I'm talking about. Island, the other side of the Atlantic, accents. And I see this. Manga Shakespeare. Here's Romeo and Juliet, okay, repurposed as the Montagues and the Capulets as warring Yakuza families in Tokyo. So the story's reset in Tokyo, but they use the original Shakespeare language. And so here you have in England, it's like Shakespeare is sort of a declining stock in merry old England, so how are we going to hook these kids? Well, we'll get them into the story and the language as this kind of gateway drug of manga. So manga, Romeo and Juliet. You go to France. So I'm walking down the streets of Paris not that long ago, and lo and behold, what do I see? I see a manga cafe in Paris. What? And it's too bad you can't see this, but basically huge shelves full of manga titles, Japanese manga translated into French. You look at manga sales in the United States, and it's the one category that's actually increasing. I find this terrifying as someone who's a kind of a writing person. I guess a writing person would be a writer. Not a good writer, but as a mediocre writing person, it's kind of troubling because you look at every other trend line in the world of publishing, in the world of print, really, in the world of print. Look at the trend lines in the world of print. It is like, whether it's magazines, newspapers, books, the trend line is like this. It is the trend line of the long goodbye. And it doesn't go that direction. That's kind of interesting. Wired declares that manga has conquered America. You see manga, you see young men and women in the United States in college anime clubs, manga clubs, doing cosplay, all that sort of stuff. And so I think, that's kind of interesting. We know from Japan that manga can be used for a whole range of ideas, a whole range of stories, a whole range of arguments, and it's becoming popular all around the world. Then I think, I'm a writer, and I often write about work. But then I started thinking about careers. If you want to give people advice about their careers, I thought about the experience of, say, a 23-year-old. 23-year-old is going on a job interview. And a 23-year-old has to go on a job interview and wants to know what the company does. What's that 23-year-old going to do?
Google it. Internet search.
Google it! Very simple question here. You see why I didn't do well in law school, because I stink at the Socratic thing, but I'm going to move forward here. They'll Google it. They'll go online. My instinct is to go online. Let's say you're putting your resume together. You're applying for an engineering job. You want to know what kind of keywords to put in a resume so your engineering resume lifts to the top. How do you find out that information? You go on. I'll tell you. You go online. You go online. You go to a blog. You go to a chat board. You go to Facebook. You go online for that kind of information. And all this kind of information about careers, people are increasingly getting online. And so you think about this then. I think about it as a business person too. Why would you ever put that kind of information, that kind of tactical career information, in a book? It makes no sense. If it didn't exist, would you start it? That's a very important question in business, a question I think about all the time. If what you're selling, what you're delivering, if it didn't exist, would anybody bother to create it? So think about putting tactical career information in the pages of a book. And let's say I went to a venture capitalist with this idea. I'm going to do career books with tactical information. It's a great idea, let me tell you. As soon as I memorialize that information on the page, it starts to grow stale. All right? Then it takes a couple of months. When it finally makes it to the bookstore, it's going stale. The whole time it makes its way to the bookstore, and it keeps going stale as it sits on that shelf. What's more, you can't search it. And you know what else? It's not free. It costs money. You in? Are you insane? Why would anybody ever do that? So that's a very important thing for writers, for publishers to think about. I think with books, you have to say, what can a book do that Google, what can a book do that Google can't? Or actually, either side of it. What can Google do?